Hi, welcome to Lesson 5 of CSEC Physics at Edu Solutions Institute. So today's lesson we'll be looking at prefixes, right? Well, last week was about scalar vector quantities where we identified the difference between a scalar quantity, a vector quantity, and then we look at resultant forces or resultant vectors going in opposite direction, same direction, or acting at 90 degrees. Now, today's lesson will be looking at prefixes, which is a more lighter topic, a topic that is overlooked by some students, but it's important, especially in the calculation world. So, a prefix, just like the English, is, in this case though, is a letter that we place just behind a number, which is just before the unit, that simplifies a number that is either too small are too large because it has a lot of zeros. So in order to not write these zeros, then we use a prefix to simplify the number. So we write less numbers with the prefix, and that gives a notification of what the exact value is. Now we have different types of prefixes, right? But at this level, we're going to only focus on these 8 prefixes. Now, it's important to know their names, their symbols, and what their value are. So let's look at the first prefix, which is pico. And pico is represented by a common p. And the value of pico is that it's times 10 to the negative 12. And what this means, it is 1 divided by 1 with 12 zeros. 3, 6, 9, 12. So that's the value of pico. Then we go to nano. And nano is a common n, and its value is 10 to the negative 9. Again, this would be 1 over 9 zeros, which is a billion. Alright, micro is a Greek symbol. So it's represented by drawing a U, then putting a stick on the next part of the U. And that is times 10 to the negative 6, which means it's 1 over a million. Alright, then we go to milli, which is a common M, which is times 10 to the negative 3, which is just 1 over 1,000. Then we go to centi, which is a common C, which is times 10 to the negative 2, which is 1 over 100. Then kilo, which is common K, which is times 10 to the positive 3, which just means it's by 1,000. And mega, which is a capital M, which is times 10 to the 6, which is 10 with a 1 and 6 zeros, which is just a million. And then finally is giga, capital G, which is times 10 to the 9, represented by a billion. Alright, so these are your popular prefixes. Now, these are the prefixes with their values. What do these values mean? These values that have negative powers mean that you're taking the decimal place from left to cover those zeros going over to the right. So these are for small numbers. The positive prefixes are the ones for larger numbers that you want to get them to be smaller, right? So they have a lot of zeros going over on the right hand side. So for the negative, they have zeros going over on the left side. Positive, they have zeros on our right side. So I know from this, you know 3 popular ones that everybody uses, right? So in class, you probably normally, especially in math, would say that 100, 1,000 millimeter equals to 1 meter. And where did that came from? That came from this, right? So, because milli values 10 to the negative 3. And we know that 10 millimeters equal 1 centimeters. How did we know that? Because the difference between centi and milli is just by 1. So 1, 0. Alright, so that's where this principle came from. Now, let's say we're given a number 0.000356, and this is in a unit of seconds. And the examiner asks us to put this to milliseconds. Right? So now we know this here is your prefix, this is your unit. So that's your prefix, and this now is your unit. How do we know a prefix different from a unit? No prefix is two common letters. Right? So no prefix is two common letters, no unit is two common letters. So if you have two common letters behind a number, then that means the first one is a prefix, the second one is the unit. Now if it was gigaamperes, same thing. No unit has two capital letters. No prefix has two capital letters. So therefore, the first one will represent the unit, the second one will represent the first one is the prefix, sorry, the second one would be the unit. So that's how you know the difference between units and prefix. So just like this, where it's just S right here, a number with just a symbol behind it means it's just the unit. If it was, let's say, Pascal, how do we know that this is? We know that no prefix is a capital P, no unit is a common A. So therefore, together, this is just a unit. Alright? Now, let's do this one. So if we have this number for in seconds and we need to convert it to milliseconds, because we have too much zeros here. So we want to reduce it. So your examiner tells you to put it in milliseconds. That means milli is 10 to the negative 3. And what this means is that we're going to move the decimal place 3 times to the right. So therefore we go 1, 2, 3, and therefore we have 0.356. It's not seconds anymore, it's now in milliseconds. So what we see here is that any prefix that we are going to, that is from the negative side, we move the decimal place over to your right. So another example could be so now we have this number in meters and we need to convert it to micrometers. So micro, we know, is 10 to the negative 6. It's negative, so that means we're moving it 6 times to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And hence we will get 3.1. It's not meters anymore, it's now micrometers. Alright? Now, if to our negative prefix we go to the right, then that means if we have some numbers that has zeros at the back of it, right? And this is in, let's put it in amperes, and we need to convert this to mega amperes. So therefore, we're going to mega. Mega is 10 to the 6. It's a positive 6, so that means our decimal place is here, and we need to move it 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we get 7.3 mega amperes. So notice these answers that we are given. They are smaller representation of numbers. So instead of writing these long numbers, we are writing a smaller bit of number with just a symbol to represent the prefix. So as you can see, positive prefixes, we take the decimal place over to your left. Negative prefixes, we take the decimal place to your right. right? And finally, before we close off, is what if we have a prefix and we need to get rid of the prefix? And this is the application in calculations that we will do in the future. So let's say we have 1.5 milliseconds. Now, if you are given a question with 1.5 milliseconds for time, before you do any calculations, you have to convert it to seconds. So that means we need to know how to move from milliseconds to seconds, right? So how do we get rid of the milli? So we know milli is 10 to the negative 3. And what that means now, because we're moving away from negative 3 to seconds, meaning every prefix that is negatively powered are small values. So we're moving from a small thing to a larger thing. So from milli to a larger value, right? I know math people would do this. Small to large, it's dividing, right? And large to small, we multiply. So this is small to large, so we will divide. What would we divide by? We will divide by how much zeros is in milli, which is 1,000. And hence our answer would be, we take this 3 times, 1, 2, 3. So our answer is 0.0015 seconds. So that is the value in seconds, right? Now, if it was a positive number, the same thing would apply. The only difference is that you would multiply instead of divide. All right, so that's how we will treat prefixes. We will use a lot of prefixes in our calculations, especially in our CSEC past questions. So hope you understand about prefix, and I'll see you next week where we continue to learn about the CSEC physics syllabus. Thanks for watching. See you next week.